Hi, and welcome to another lunch and learn session. I hope everyone is having a great day. The sun is out today, which is making me super happy. Today, I'm going to kind of give you some overall voiceover tips. I know people aren't doing voiceovers per se, but if you're doing any sort of online recordings for tutorial work or doing any sort of recordings for video, especially right now, you might find some of this information helpful. Several years ago, I decided that I wanted to learn more about voiceover. So I signed up for a 6-week course at Boston Casting Company and learned the ins and outs of voiceover work. It was fascinating. It was fun. I highly recommend it to anyone that might be slightly interested in this type of work, or pretty much anyone that is in front of people and speaking publicly. I noticed that it really did help me tremendously after taking this particular course. So again, I have slides for everyone, so you don't have to really take notes. I'm not going to read the slides verbatim, but if you have any questions, please feel free to submit a question or raise your hand or something if I'm going too fast or you need something to be repeated. And I guess we'll just go from there. So we're going to go over either the first part is dictation, formal or natural, and then the last part, last couple of slides are going to be just tips that you can use as you're recording yourself. So we typically will carry on conversations with natural dialect, natural, when we're not on the spotlight, I guess you would say, or in front of a lot of people. When you're having conversations with friends, family, you just naturally have these very natural flowing conversations. Again, it really does depend on our audience. If we're with, really close friends or colleagues, we might adjust our different way of speaking just to make sure that we are clearly understood. It is really the speaker's job, or the teacher or instructor, to determine how formally or informally you want to deliver the message. Again, I go back to understanding your audience, understanding the subject matter, and really understanding your comfort level, because the more comfortable you are in delivering a message, the better the audience will receive it. And practicing the message, practicing your message will actually enhance the understanding and the ability to receive the message from the audience perspective. Some of the things as you're speaking, or maybe even you're finding this now as you're recording, there might be a challenging word that's in your script or in your lesson plan, and sometimes you stumble over it. It happens to everyone. You just really need to kind of take a step back and break up that particular word. The word that I actually put in this PowerPoint is particularly, and really just as it's stated, break it up, particularly, and then put it together. But allow yourself to concentrate on kind of breaking up those words, and it really will help you articulate, and it sounds better the more you practice it. Below, there are some other words that I've listed that for some reason seem to really stump people. I happened to reread some of these words earlier, and I laughed when I saw the word nuclear, because my husband works at the nuclear reactor at MIT, and he always laughed because I was able to pronounce that word so clearly, whereas that's a word that people really stumble on. When he says where he works, people stumble with that particular word for some reason. I'm not sure why, but I thought that was kind of funny. So then you have the wordy words. And, sometimes it can sound very slurred or messy when you're saying some particular word or word phrases. They can come across to the listener as a muddy mess, basically. You really want to understand that the listener sometimes will hear background noises, sometimes there's music, sometimes language barrier could be a thing. And so if you're saying a word that's already kind of slurred or muddied, that will be an additional challenge for the listener. In my previous Lunch and Learn with the American Sign Language, one of the things that I noticed as I taught people, especially with very thick accents, sign language, that once they slowed down themselves to do the sign, I noticed that they're articulating the word very different than when they were just saying the word without signing. So an example of that is the word more. So I would say to the person, this is the sign more. So when you're doing this with your child, say, do you want some more food? And at first, the person was having a hard time connecting the more and saying it at the same time. But as they continued to practice it, the word more sounded the way it should, not muddied or not with a thicker accent than in the beginning where it sounded like more. And so you really can hear a difference as people are concentrating on certain words or phrases. Does that make sense to folks? Okay. Again, you really want to kind of look at wordy phrases separately as well. Much like the enunciation piece, you sometimes have to look at a phrase that you might be wanting to say and break it up in small chunks and really just read it in very word for word kind of a pattern to allow yourself to not only hear it, but also allow your muscle memory in your mouth to kind of remember what it felt like when you said that particular word. So these are, again, some examples. And I'm sorry, but commercial type examples, and I apologize for that, but that's what I had in my paperwork. So what you can do is you can go on in and just kind of give yourself time to kind of go back into the PowerPoint and relook at this particular phrase, like, it's the one-day super sale at Sears starting this Saturday. And you can make it sound differently depending on how much you practice the word for word piece. Again, I always go back to practicing it, and it will sound a lot more clear than you can imagine. So another thing that really does help, some of us have different accents. I've been told I sound like a newscaster, which is interesting, but then my friends back home think I sound like I'm from Massachusetts now. So I honestly don't know what my accent is at this point, but we all have an accent. Oh, and there is accents in ASL too, which is really interesting. But tongue twisters are a really great way to help your mouth muscles adjust and conform to very difficult phrases. And these two that I posted, they are quite the tongue twister, even though they are quite simple. They really are a tongue twister. And if you could say them to yourself several times, you'll start to find that, oh, this is a little harder than it looks. And what's really funny is if you record yourself saying it once and then you say it 10 times in a row, and then go back and record yourself the 10th time and go back and listen to the first recording to the last recording, you will hear a definite difference in the two recordings, because again, that muscle memory in your mouth will remember these words and it will sound much more clear on the last version that you've recorded. And the other thing, when you're really trying to have a conversation, or if you're doing a lesson plan and you're trying to make it conversational, do not over articulate. It just sounds weird. It sounds really awkward. Even though you think you're doing the right thing, it doesn't sound good from a listener's perspective. You really want to ensure that you're practicing clear enunciation of words, but over articulating takes away the natural speech pattern that you might have. And with this, I'm not wanting anyone to change their speech pattern or to sound any different than they would naturally sound. This information is truly designed to make you feel confident, to enhance your speaking, and to really make it sound more natural than something you might be just reading off of the script. This is something that I feel very strongly about, and as you're doing this more and more, you're going to start listening to other people. Maybe you listen to different blog or what are those podcasts, or you're listening to the news, or you might hear a commercial on television, and you'll start to notice the speech patterns or how they're speaking. And you'll start to say, oh, that didn't sound very natural, or oh, that sounded like this. And it's interesting what you'll start to pick up on as you're listening to the world around you, really. I know I do that now every time I'm in the car and I'm listening to the radio. I kind of chuckle about it because it's such a habit that I do that. So it's very funny to me. So these are my tips. And I'm actually going to do this for you because you have to see what I'm talking about. So the first thing you always want to do is, I know everybody has their cell phone and there is a recording feature on your phone. I recommend you record yourself. I know 9 times out of 10, people hate the sound of their own voice. No one wants to hear themselves on a voicemail. No one wants to hear themselves at any point in time. I get it. I'm in the same boat. However, record yourself the first time you're reading through a script or something that you might have to record later. Hold that recording. Then, I didn't have a cork. I know. We've been in quarantine for how long? And I don't have a cork. But I have this kind of plasticky cork. So you're going to put this cork between your teeth and read the script again. And what I mean by that is you're literally going to do that, and you're going to read the script all the way through. Don't record it. It sounds awful. But do that. You can even do it once, twice, 3 times, whatever you're comfortable with. But once you remove the cork and you read the script for the final time, record yourself, you will see a huge difference in the first recording to the final recording. Again, it goes back to repetitiveness. It goes back to your comfort level. It goes back to understanding each word as you're reading it and understanding what it might sound like to the other person, and kind of giving that a little more thought. So does anybody have any questions on that? I take that as a no. I know it sounds really strange. And when I tell people this, they usually, oh, did we have a question? I don't know. I saw something happen on my thing. Oh, 2 questions. Hold on. Oh, no question. Okay. So the other thing, the last part, I know this is going kind of fast. I apologize. I thought this would go a little longer. So please let me know if you have any questions. So I do actually, after I do this, maybe when we're back in the office, I actually have recordings of myself doing different types of voiceover work. Every time somebody's heard the recordings, they don't know it's me, which makes me laugh. But it is me, but with these tips and techniques, I've actually learned how to change my voice sound on recordings. So I don't know if that's helpful, or if you're curious to listen to those recordings, I'm happy to share them with you. Oops. It's not going to the next slide. Here we go. So anytime you're going to do a recording, there's a couple things you want to have prepped. If you know your recording is going to be more than 20 minutes long, I encourage you to eat a bag of greasy Lay's potato chips. Any brand actually will do. But you know those little school lunch bag sizes? Eat one of those little bags if you can. The reason why you do this is the oils from the chips actually coat your vocal cords, and they allow you to continually have that speech pattern without getting dry towards the end. I saw that there might have been, sorry, go back to that. So that is something that sounds very strange to do. However, it works. If for some reason you're not into the greasy chips, which a lot of people aren't, I get, there are other ways that you can enhance or protect your vocal cords during any sort of recording sessions. One of the things that I always have, I don't know if you can see it, but they're basically honey lozenges. They're not menthol, they're not any kind of, it's just a natural lozenge with honey, almost like a drop of honey inside. The honey is really, really important to your vocal cords. Again, it helps coat your vocal cords. It helps it gives you the ability to continue speaking without having to stop and take a break in between your speaking pieces. Sometimes you just want that natural flow of conversation or to just continue on. But as you do that, and you'll start picking this up on other recordings, you can tell the beginning of the recording because the voice sounds very fresh and crisp and clear. And towards the end of the recording, you're going to hear yourself almost with a little bit of a rasp because you've been talking and your vocal cords are drying out. So those are the things that you want to really keep in mind. Again, you might want to just break up your speaking pieces in different chunks to allow it to sound a little more fluid from the listener's perspective. Again, that's just something I would typically do. The other thing you can do is have a nice warm glass of water with honey in it, or warm tea with honey. Again, that honey really does coat the vocal cords, and you really want to stay hydrated. That's where, your voice will start to sound tired. Your voice will start to sound a little off from, between the two, the beginning and the end. And that's not something you want to do in a recording. You want to really have that consistent flow, the consistent recording that from a listener's perspective sounds really solid all the way through. So I think other than that, I'm trying to figure out what other tips I could possibly give you. I really did synthesize this whole, my voiceover stuff to a very, very small amount of time. My biggest tips are practice. Record yourself. Even though you don't want to hear yourself, record yourself. The more you do that, the more comfortable and the more confident you're going to be in your speaking abilities, and you're going to feel more confident. And when you feel more confident about recording yourself, that also, you can hear that in the recording. When you're not confident, you can definitely hear that as well. So knowing your subject matter, absolutely, you want to be confident in it, but being confident in yourself and being confident with your vocal ranges is another key piece. Just like an instrument or a musician might practice singing or practice their instrument, practice makes perfect. practice brings that confidence level. And it's the same thing in regards to your voice, whether you're singing or speaking. It still has the same feeling of, you might be nervous, but you don't want to hear the nerves on the recording. Or you might be unsure of something, but you don't want to hear it in the recording. And believe it or not, even though you might not be able to see your face or not see the person behind the recording, you can hear a lot of emotion. So just be aware of that. Are there any other questions? I don't know who's here.
I don't think we have any more questions, MJ, but I'm going to wrap up the recording so that we can open this up to just discussion. Thank you so much.
Perfect.